G'day people, welcome back to the channel. Today I have another new brand. This is Vertigo Watches. This one provided by another collaboration effort from a mate. So thank you Mitch for making this available. This is a company which I know very little about. Vertigo Watches on their website, they listed as copyrighted in Italy, but if you take a look at their About Us page, it does have a typesetting similar to Chinese translated to English. You know, it has that type of feel. Let me know if you know any more about Vertigo Watches, because their website leaves me thinking that it's a bit of an enigma. So, you know, it comes in this carry case, this travel case, which I appreciate, you know, practicality. So this particular watch does come in this. I'm not sure if all their watches do come in this. So let's just get into it. Warranty card there, nothing much more. It's really a fairly plain one watch carry case, right? So just going to put that apart and put that aside and show you the watch. So take a look at this. This is the Vertigo Diver 1 V2 Black. This is this particular model. So on their website, it's listed at 220 euros plus delivery. That translates to about US $255 on the current exchange rate. Of course, that may vary depending on which part of the world you are. You know, all links to products down the bottom as I can find them. So the movement in this particular watch is nothing other than a Seiko NH35. I'm just going to put the stats here on the left of screen because I'm sick of reading it out. So you can pause it and read it if you want. So this particular watch is performing at +3 seconds per day in actual use, which is pretty good as far as the rating of this movement is concerned. The case here, so moving on to the case here, all right, let you see it. 42mm diameter case in 316L steel. Thickness is 13mm thick. Lug width is 22mm, which is fair for a 42mm diver, with a lug-to-lug distance of 49mm. This is a steel bracelet watch, so it does have some heft and it weighs in at 171 grams adjusted on the scales. I've removed a few links, so if you have the full links in or you have a much bigger wrist than mine, of course that's going to weigh a little bit more. Okay, finishing wise, okay, this lets you zoom in a little bit here, right? Longitudinal brushing on the top surface, and then it transitions to polished on the side, as you know, as do many Submariner style homages, and then it goes down into what is actually a circular brushing. I'm not sure if that's going to translate on the camera here. It's circular brushing at the bottom of the case. All right, just take a look at that case back there. Okay, the screw-in etched case back, you know, not bad. It's got that 6 holes for the screw-in there. It's got the etched Vertigo watches and then various details around the side, including water-resistant stainless steel and whatnot, sapphire as well, it does say around the side there. Okay, so with that screw-in case back and a screw-in crown, which is etched with that Vertigo triangle, and a really quite a cool symbol. I think I haven't quite seen a symbol like that, you know, kind of triple symmetry. Right, screw in there. It is rated at 300 meters in terms of its water resistance rating. All right, moving on to the black dial now. Okay, just have a look there. It's wholly printed. There is not a single applied element there, but you know, it's not a bad look. You know, I think for the change up, you know, when I saw this watch, the first thought, I guess one of the first thoughts I had was like, oh no, not another Submariner homage. But this one is a bit different, right? Of course, with the dial being completely different from the typical Rolex sub with Mercedes hands. It doesn't have that. It has this wholly different thing. So, you know, it's got that white baton hour hand with an orange black outline sword style hand for the minute. So that's a bit different. This guy does have the kind of a lollipop loom pip for the seconds hand, so that's a little bit more usual. And the loom applied all around here with the hours markings as well as the hands is C1 Supernova. That's what they have stated. Right, okay, so that's really the dial here, orange down the back, down the bottom there saying Vertigo Diver 1, automatic and whatnot, everything is printed. The date disc here is a white disc with black writing implemented on that window, and that white kind of plays in nicely to maintain a little bit of symmetry where it's shortened that 3 o'clock hour marking. Okay, so moving on to the bezel now. Okay, the bezel is 120 click unidirectional steel insert or metal insert bezel. It might well be aluminium. They haven't stated directly, but often they are aluminium bezel inserts. And just let you hear that. Right, so 120 click unidirectional dive bezel. It feels all right. The detents are pretty solid for this price point. It's kind of what you expect. It's not perfectly solid, but it's kind of functional in a good enough sense, I would say. Okay, so that's the bezel there. And then on top of that is a flat sapphire crystal. They haven't said about anti-reflective coating, but the way it works, I suspect there is at least an internal anti-reflective coating. All right, bracelet then. So the bracelet here is actually oyster style, fully brushed, right? There's not a single polished surface. They haven't gone for the polished sides, which many homages do, right? It's just a fully brushed bracelet. It is push pins for the link changes, but it does have the solid end links that you can see there. In terms of the clasp, okay, let's just look at the clasp there. This part's a little bit more solid. This one's not too bad, but the actual the clasp body here is pressed metal. That's really what you're getting for this particular clasp here, and it doesn't have a push button. It's just a friction right release. That's what it is. All right, let's just put it on for the wrist shot now very quickly, and there we have the Vertigo Diver 1 on my 17 centimeter wrist, remembering that lug to lug distance is 49 millimeters. Right, it's all right. I think the Diver watch style, I kind of get away with it, even though it's kind of on the large side with that lug to lug distance. Okay, that's the watch there. So I think what has this watch got going for it that it might put it different to others? Well, I think the main thing is that it's got a pretty nice looking dial. It's quite a good looker. I quite like the look of the dial. That's the thing that catches the eye first. It's got a nice symbol. The choice of hour markers, the handset, it's pretty good, and it's a departure from the typical Rolex sub-homage. I can appreciate that about this watch. In terms of the finishing, it's adequate, but it's really nothing more. There's I guess some weaknesses there, right? And that's going to be the first point of weakness I'm going to mention, is that the finishing is somewhat lacking when you compare it to other watches you might find at this price point. This it just doesn't have that extra level of refinement that you may get otherwise. Particularly, let's say I'll show you that transition between the top brushing and the polished sides. It's not very sharp at all. It's actually a little bit muddy, a little bit unrefined. They're not really finished to a very high level. I think the bracelet is kind of okay, but the case itself, unfortunately, is a little bit weak. I mean, look at that coinage there. It's not not the most refined coinage bezel that you will see by any means, right? And then the other big thing here is that the competition is a killer here. Okay, so what else would you consider in this type of range? Right, so I have here one of my Invicta Pro Divers, right? I don't have my black and white steel one. This one is a gold tone, but you get the idea. Rolex sub-homage type watch. This one is very much more an homage with the Mercedes hands and the dial. But for $70 or thereabouts for this watch, you're going to get some applied markings here. I think the finishing is kind of similar. And the bracelet, yeah, I mean, finishing similar. I mean, it's a weaker bracelet, no doubt. It's pressed metal all around. It does have the hollow end links. I know for $70, it definitely is weaker on the bracelet, but the overall case finishing, I think, is very similar. And guess what? They have exactly the same Seiko NH35 movement. So it's got an equivalent movement for a fraction of the price. It's got a similar feeling bezel, right? This one doesn't have ceramic. This one, neither does this one. So that's about the same. but this one does have the applied markers. So, competition wise, it's pretty compelling from other pieces available on the market. And then something around the same price, well, I'm going to put this next to it. This is the Phoebus Great White, 280 USD roughly, maybe sometimes even cheaper on sale, right? I would say, again, similar finishing. Phoebus does cop some flack for, weaknesses in finishing, particularly before they moved to their Hong Kong factory, I think. But this watch does have applied markers. It does have a ceramic bezel insert, right, which is an upgrade from the aluminium. At least it's more expensive. And it does have a far superior movement, definitely superior movement in the Miyota 9015. So, another compelling competition piece there, that you're going to weigh up if you're going to consider this piece for purchase. So guys, that's my thoughts about the Vertigo Diver 1. V2 Black is the model of this one. So let me know your thoughts about that, especially if you have any of their watches, or if you know more about the company. I know very little about them based on what is available on their website. I would be keen to hear if you know more about Vertigo watches. So guys, that's the video. If you enjoy my reviews, do consider subscribing. I put out new content weekly, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys next time.